All right, welcome back. So for real this time, we're going to do an automate your network video. So open up Visual Studio Code, open up my lab, get everything going. So in the last video, we got kind of a milestone in this series. We actually ran an Ansible playbook. We were able to log into the devices, but we had a failure in the commands being sent to the devices. And the reason is because we're drawing upon pre-built Ansible modules that do certain things, and it's just not aligned with like how our device is set up. So like, for example, on Juniper's, you can drop it into a FreeBSD bash prompt, and then from there you can do the command CLI and go into the Junos prompt. So depending on how your Ansible playbooks are configured, when Ansible reaches out to the device, it will assume that it has to do certain things, such as entering that CLI command or what have you. So if you don't have that right, it'll fail to accomplish what it's meaning to accomplish. So one thing we can do is get a better sense of these modules here. So like iOS Fax is one, Juniper Fax, and see what is actually attempting to be done, and to see if that makes sense. And we can even modify those modules and make it make sense. The other thing we can do, and this is something I kind of ended the last video with, is literally, like, you don't need all of this. You can just write your own code in Ansible. So like, let's do this. Okay, so using Python and the modules Paramiko or requests or whatever, just write me a simple script to log into multiple networking devices of different vendors, for example, like a Cisco, an Arista, and an Extreme, and just capture a show run and upload it to a central like GitHub repository.
All right, here's a basic outline of how you can achieve this. Setting up Paramiko. Paramiko is a Python library that allows for
and
SSH
this is
connection,
what
which is perfect
Ansible
for connecting to
uses.
network devices. GitHub API. For pushing to a GitHub repository, you can use the GitHub API. Here's a very basic script that connects to devices, captures their configuration, and then pushes them to a GitHub repository.
Yeah, see? So this is what Ansible does anyway. It literally does. There's nothing different from this, except that a lot of this is pre-programmed, and it's like a front end for this code basically. And you know, maybe it's organized better, maybe they thought things through better than you have, but you know, the point is that there's extra things. And like, if you don't need to use all the features, or it's not relevant to what you're doing, then you know, why go through all that pain of trying to weed out what like, why learn Ansible when instead you could just learn to code, which is a more universally applicable skill and can accomplish anything, and not just, you know, learning to work within the parameters of something that's predefined. Like, why not learn to read and write instead of learning, you know, how to like why learn to you know, read a certain book and be able to read a certain book out loud, instead of just learning the fundamentals of how to read and write so you can read any book and not just one specific book. You know what I mean with that? So that's kind of been my attitude towards it the whole time, is like, that this is all you need here. So like, why deal with you know, like playbooks? Why deal with host.ini files? You know, why deal with all this output and this, you know, this retry file, like this folder structure? Like why? Just write this code, you know, make your own. Like, learn to code. Like, don't learn Ansible, learn to code. You know, that's That's been my attitude towards it this whole time. So I'm hoping to try to change my mind and just walk away after reading this book in the series and be like, oh yeah, just learn Ansible, learn to code as well, but save yourself the time and the hassle of figuring some of these things out yourself and just go with the work that has already been done. I'm hoping to have my mind changed, and I'm hoping to walk away by the end of this series believing that, but so far I'm kind of not there. So let's keep going. Hopefully I can get there. So okay, so we've got let's just start off by running the playbook again, and then we'll work from there. Okay, so I need to go into my server where I actually run the playbook against my out-of-band network, where I can log into all my devices except the firewalls, but we'll concern ourselves with those later. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is open Visual Studio Code. And I can do that with this code dot inside of the directory that I want opened in Visual Studio Code. Or I could just run the playbook from here, but it's Visual Studio Code. Once you learn how to use it, and you can kind of get past some of the annoyances of it, it is worth using, in my opinion. It really does make things easier, especially when it comes to version control. So yeah, here's our playbook here. Hopefully some of the highlighting will kick in. I'm not sure why there's no highlighting right now, but let's run the playbook against it and see what happens. Okay, the highlighting kicked in, so time for the playbook. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is activate my virtual environment so that I have all my libraries. So it'll be source vnv bin activate. Okay, and there's a leg there. I'm not sure why. Oh, and that's my protein timer, I think. Yeah, so I gotta take a pause and get a hit of vegan protein. Well, this is kind of fascinating. Where's my oh, you know what? I don't have a virtual environment. So and this will be cool to demo. So I need to get all my oh, you know what? I don't think I need a virtual environment actually, because this is Ansible. Yeah, so I'm using Ansible playbooks -i for the inventory file, host.ini, and then I forget what else I need. Let's see if it's in the history. And we're gonna do a history pipe grep playbook. Play bod. Okay, let's do a pipe grep Ansible. You know what we can do is just look at the book, because so we do need to open another instance of Visual Studio Code. All right. And this is the instance that has the answer key here, and then has the book. Okay, so we're on chapter 6. Let's look for that. Okay, so here's chapter 6, network reconnaissance. That's what we're working on right now. We've got our sample network. Looks quite a bit different than what they have, but it's because it's more complex. We're working in our special branch to do our network reconnaissance. Then we'll merge it into main. So right now we're right here. We defined our group vars to log into the devices with. We've created our folder structure here where we'll keep our tactical playbooks. And then we've defined a playbook to gather reconnaissance. So where we're right now is we're running the playbook. So the command is Ansible-playbook. And then we do need to specify where the host file is. For some reason, it can't find it by default. And then we need to feed it the playbook. And then we can do -- check to forbid it from making any write changes to the devices. So let's do that. And we have to do it in the actual environment, lab environment. So the playbook's name, it's going to be under playbooks. And then we can see the different choices we have: campus, tactical, and then it's going to be campus facts YAML. All right, so let's take a look at what we got here. This is how I ended the video last one, I believe. So this is how I'm going to begin it this time around. And then if you learn to code and you don't just rely on Ansible, you can make this output any way you want it to, which is pretty nice. And then you don't even have to worry about, like, you know, these kinds of things, because it'll just work when it doesn't work. It's like, for me, I feel like if you're just using Ansible, you don't know what this means. Unable to automatically determine host network OS. Why is it doing that? Like, it's the kind of thing where I think, like, for things to happen on their own without explicit user-defined intention, to me is like really bad. So like, I don't know why it's automatic. So the reason it's trying to automatically determine the host network OS is because of something I fed to it in the playbook. But I did not do that intentionally. I did not do that so that every little tiny character, every little tiny thing it does on the device is something I explicitly told it to do. And that's basically my problem with Ansible, especially as compared to using just the basic code, just Python and Paramiko. As we saw, we can do especially easy nowadays using ChatGPT. It'll just print it out for us right like that. So, there's just too much that's implied, too much that's under the hood. I want it just all out there in all its guts and glory, because as the programmer behind it, working with the code, I just want it to be all out there, even if it looks ugly, because the people running the code are just going to be using these call commands, and they don't see that. And then anyone that does collaborate with me, hopefully they're good enough at programming to where if it looks a little bit ugly, they can catch on to it, and maybe they can clean it up and make it look better and run better. That'd be great. So that's kind of my bias coming into it, and as I said, I'm hoping to have my mind changed. So now we can see that we do have some problems here. The authenticity of the host cannot be established, and then it's not able to determine the OS. So let's first of all shrink this down so that it fits better on there, and then let's run it again. Let's pipe the output to the error log, and then feed that into ChatGPT. All right, and I'll take my vegan protein hit right now. So I'll pause it and I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. I'm going to take my sedentary time here. I've got about 16 minutes remaining of it. So let's continue on this. So we got that error message, so we're going to feed it into ChatGPT. So we'll log it, and we'll say, so we'll go up like that, and then we'll do all Ansible failure, and then we'll commit, We'll sync the changes, and then the cool thing we'll see is it'll automatically register here because every 30 seconds, so it'll be 30 seconds from now because we enabled that automatic fetching. So we could change that to like every 10 seconds because 30 seconds is kind of a long time to wait. But it should automatically pop up in 30 seconds. That being said, 30 seconds is a long time. We could change it to 15. But I feel like 30 seconds has... 30 seconds is a very long time. Very, very long time when you're on computers like this. Alright, let me check. Huh. Okay, well... Oh, it showed up. It just doesn't give you a notification here. Okay, so now let's take a look at that error log, and let's feed it into ChatGPT.
The error messages you posted suggest that you're encountering a couple of distinct issues when trying to execute an Ansible play against several devices in your data center. Let's break down the errors and provide solutions for each. Unable to automatically determine host network OS, Ansible is saying that it can't figure out the network operating system for the data ls01, data ls02, data ls03, and data ls04 devices. To fix this, you'll need to explicitly set the Ansible_network_OS variable for these devices.
Okay, I can
This
do
variable
that.
lets Ansible know which network module to use for the connection. YAML copy code data ls01. Ansible_network_OS. IS hash example if it's a Cisco IS device data ls02. Ansible_network_OS. IS hash. And so on for the rest of the devices the authenticity of host can't be established. Ansible is telling you that it hasn't seen the SSH keys for data DS01 and data DS02 before, and it's unsure whether to trust them. This is a common SSH issue when connecting to a host for the first time. The quickest way to handle this, though not the most secure, is to turn off host key checking. You can do this by setting an environment variable or adding a configuration to your Ansible config.
Let's just
Bash
save
copy
the
code
key.
export Ansible_host_key_checking equals false. Alternatively, you can manually SSH to these hosts from the machine running Ansible to accept the key interactively.
Yeah, let's do that.
Once the key is saved, Ansible should be able to connect without issue. Bash copy code username and data DS01 hash replace username with your SSH username if security is a concern, as it often should be in a data center environment. You'd want to manually verify the authenticity of these keys to ensure you're not falling victim to a man-in-the-middle attack. General advice. Ensure that your Ansible control machine has network reachability to all the devices. Simple pings or SSH tests can confirm this. Make sure the credentials you're using for these devices are correct. If you're unsure, test them manually. If you're using a network module other than the default, like network_CLI, netgif, etc., make sure that the device is set up to accept that kind of connection. Once you've addressed these issues, you should be able to execute your playbook successfully.
Okay, so it looks like it is saved. I don't know why it's having that error if it is saved. I am testing the right one, the DS. Yeah, authenticity cannot be established. Man. Okay, so yeah, that looks good. Let me try the playbook one more time without the updating the error file. I just want to see if these messages go away because I do have that key saved. Okay, so this is normal and expected. So let me ask you about DNS resolution. So DNS resolution seems to be taking longer than expecting. How can I troubleshoot this issue and speed it up?
DNS resolution delays can be caused by various factors. To troubleshoot and speed up the process, follow these steps. Ping the DNS server. Start by ensuring you can reach the DNS server. Use the ping command to check connectivity. PHP copy code ping less than DNS_server_IP greater than use dig or ns lookup. These tools will help you diagnose DNS problems. Copy code dig example. Com or copy code ins lookup example. Com check the query time in the output of the dig command. This will give you an idea of how long the DNS resolution is taking. Check, etc. Resolve. Conference. On Unix, Linux systems, this file contains a list of DNS servers your system uses. Make sure it's pointing to the correct and fastest DNS servers available to you. Try a different DNS server. Sometimes the configured DNS server may be slow or overloaded. As a test, you can switch to public DNS server.
Okay, so we could try some of that later, but now let's focus on. Okay, so yeah, it's still a problem. So let's try disabling it. So we'll do export Ansible host key checking equals false. Okay, so that should be, sorry, we exported the wrong thing. There we go. Okay. Perfect. Okay, so I'm just looking for those Paramnico messages to go away. I'm surprised they're there because I'm not having them when I do a manual. Okay, and then the next step after that, we do need to figure out why it's unable to automatically determine the host OS. So we do need to manually configure that, and there were instructions here. So we need to put this in. So let me ask them. Do I put this in my playbook YAML file if I paste in the whole file here? Can you please update it for me? Okay, so we see this
Section you
is
provided is
looking
typically part of
better.
the Ansible inventory, not directly in the playbook itself.
Oh, really? Okay.
In Ansible, the inventory defines the list of hosts you're managing, and the playbook defines what you want to do on those hosts. However, if
Okay.
you want to share your playbook, I can certainly help you integrate these settings.
No, I'll make the changes in the playbook. No, that's okay. I'll make the changes in the inventory. I've been doing things in the playbook so far that I think do belong in the inventory. So what I will do is I will paste in the playbook, and then I will wait for you to say confirmed that you see the playbook I pasted in, and then after that I'll paste in the inventory file and wait for you to ask me if you want me to make the changes to the inventory file, and then please make the changes to the inventory file and I will update my files.
Sure, that sounds like a plan. Go ahead and paste your playbook, and I'll confirm once I see it.
Isn't this
After
amazing?
that, you can share your inventory file, and I'll guide you through the necessary changes to ensure everything is set up correctly. Confirmed, I see your playbook. From what I can tell, your playbook is structured around different groups of hosts. Data center, core,
This
internet,
is
WAN,
insane.
and FLOR01. For each group, you're gathering facts based on the device type E, G, iOS, Junos, EOS, and saving those facts to a file on the local machine. The next step would be for you to share your inventory file. Once I see that, I can guide you on the necessary changes and best practices to ensure smooth integration between the playbook and the inventory.
This is insane. Like, I'm working with an
Step 4.
employee.
Sharing the inventory. It's structured well with parent-child groupings based on device types. Now, let's make the necessary changes to specify the Ansible_network_OS for each group of devices based on their OS type. Here's how you can add the Ansible_network_OS variable for each group. Remember, to integrate the provided snippet into your existing inventory. This sets the Ansible_network_OS variable for each group, allowing Ansible to automatically determine the correct module to use for each device type. With these changes, your playbook should work without the issue you encountered earlier. If you have any FortiGate devices and you eventually uncomment that section in your playbook, you would similarly define Ansible_network_OS for that group once you determine the correct value.
Okay, perfect. I added it to the bottom of the file. Does that make sense, or would it be better to add it to the top of the file? Also, take a look at my playbook, and you will see the remote user and the vars Ansible connection network CLI on there. Is that good to have in the playbook, or do I need to remove that from the playbook and have it be in the hosts file instead? Would that be better? I mean, you can't hire someone for hundreds of thousands
Your
of
inventory file and playbook are
dollars
shaping up nicely.
to be this good.
Let's address each of your questions.
This is
Inventory
insane.
variable provisioning. Ansible's any style inventory format doesn't care about the order of group variables. Whether you place the variables at the top or bottom of the inventory, Ansible will still process them correctly. That said, from a human readability perspective, some prefer having group variables close to their corresponding group for easy reference. However, it's entirely up to you and your personal or team's preference. Variables in playbook versus inventory. Remote_user. This can be defined in either the playbook or the inventory, but defining it in the inventory provides more flexibility. By placing it in the inventory, you can have different remote_user values for different groups or hosts if needed. But if you're using the same remote_user across all your devices, defining it in the playbook is fine.
What the hell?
Ansible_connection. This is generally defined in the inventory, especially when you have a mix of device types and connection methods. In your case, since you're working with network devices and using network_CLI across all of them, it's okay to have it in the playbook. However, if you ever have a mix where some devices use a different connection type, you'd likely move this to the inventory to specify on a per group or per host basis. For optimal flexibility and as a best practice, consider moving both remote_user and Ansible_connection to the inventory.
Okay.
This way, if there are ever exceptions or changes in the future, you can easily manage them in the inventory without having to adjust the playbook. If you decide to move them to the inventory, you can add them under each group or a specific group of devices like so. If you choose this route, you'd repeat this for each primary group, core, internet, etc. Closing parenthesis. Then, you can remove those variables from the playbook to avoid redundancy.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna put them down here and then remove them from the playbook. So okay, I need to do it for each. I needed to do it for the. Yeah. So basically, I'll just copy this. Oh, you know what I'll do? I'll just add this to each of the vars section. Sorry, I work right in front of a window, and it's just at my apartment complex, and there's a Porsche outside, which is like, whoa, I don't really see a Porsche outside that often. I've seen a shooting, but I haven't seen a Porsche. But there were two guys having to push the Porsche. Yeah, now there's 3 guys pushing the Porsche. So I don't understand why you can't just drive the Porsche. Like I thought that's what the point of a Porsche is. I don't need to get 2 friends to push my 2016 Toyota Corolla. Maybe I guess that's why I'm kind of a loser when it comes to cars. Okay, so let's see here. Okay, so here we go. So yep, so that looks good. So now we can clean up the file. We don't need this kind of annoying redundant information down here. So I'll remove that under each of the hosts, and we can have hosts, tasks. Yeah, so it should look a lot cleaner like that. Yeah, this looks a lot cleaner to me. So let's clean it up. Yeah, we'll have a space between the two just because I think that looks clean. So like Ansible, this is kind of changing my mind a little bit because this does look like pretty neat and clean. Like if you were just to make the code yourself, you would have to make these kinds of files. You'd have to tell it what to do. You'd have to tell it what devices to do it on. You know, so basically you'd have to build out your own version of Ansible, and you'd have to make a lot of design choices and stuff that were already made by people kind of devoting their career to this. So not likely is to make as good of choices. So I do see the power of Ansible, especially when it comes to just like working with the AI, which I mean, you could work with the AI just to write your own code instead of just going with Ansible. And the AI is probably better at pure coding than it is at just using Ansible, but I'm kind of being won over a little bit. So yeah, let's go to the source control. We're going to stage all the changes, and then we're going to make a commit message, which will be like, we're going to say like cleaning up playbook, building hosts.ini. Okay. And then we'll sync the changes, and then we'll automatically have those available on the other one. And it won't give a notice, but that's good. Too many notices are distracting. That's a timer. I think that's my sedentary timer. Yep, that's my sedentary timer. So I got to do 5 minutes on the treadmill. So unless I want to have health problems and be very miserable and obese, as I have been, I need to be active at least every 25 minutes for at least 5 minutes. And active can mean something as little as a short walk on a slow walk. I'm at 1.5 miles per hour, I think, on a treadmill. So yeah, really easy. All right, so now we've got those changes, so let's run the playbook again. Okay, we're gathering facts. Let's get some facts. If this works, I will be excited. And we're just doing it against the data center for now. Once this works, we'll do it against all of them, and we'll probably have to deal with more issues, but... Okay, so we've got an authentication failed, which is kind of interesting because didn't have that before. So let's take a look at the host.ini. Take a look at our authentication. So we do have the remote user set up. Okay, so that's interesting. It's not using the same kind of authentication as it was. Obviously, it's probably using a different host name. Interesting. And I feel like this should be in the group vars. Interesting. You know what I think I want to do? I think I want to feed this to the AI. So it's just failing. Let's Control C out of it, and then let's redirect the output to the error log, and put that up to the AI once that's complete. We can just always redirect it to the... Well, the thing is, like, when we redirect it, we don't see it in the CLI, but, like, I mean, we could just see it print out here, so it's not a big deal. Oh, man. This is rough. Yeah, so we're going to feed this into the AI. Yeah, it's taking really long. I mean, for the authentication to fail, I think it takes longer. This is kind of interesting. Yeah, it's taking too long. Let's try to use this time productively, and let's try to read some more of the book as it's going. So review the check mode output from the playbook that executes against all hosts listed in the campus group, referencing host.ini. The task, campus facts on campus, is executed serially against the host. So serially, that's important. And that's one of those things that if you write your own code, you'll have to struggle with that. And that's not necessarily easy to write serial code that reaches out to all the devices at once. That can be like pretty complicated. So they figured it out. They've done it right. So just use the work that's already there. Because if you try to reinvent the wheel, you'll make it into a square. The task has run successfully. For example, OK core on each host. There are no errors present in the playbook, and the commands executed successfully. Next, the task copy executes on each host, creating, for example, changed core, new output files for each host. The play recap shows the status of each device, OK2, and how many changes will be made. Changed equals 1 if the device was unreachable, and how many steps, if any, failed. Failed equals 0. The text will be green for all unchanged / status of OK, changed to yellow to indicate changes, and red to indicate failures or errors. Execute the play now that it is known. It will execute without errors. So I'm entitled to some sedentary time if I want it. Feeling good right now though. But yeah, so this is where we're at now. If we get that to run without errors, then we can run it without the -- check and actually make some changes. I'm not sure what changes they're making, maybe just a show run or something like that. Or sorry, just a copy run start, something like that. But for now, we're going to do it without changes. So yeah, we've got failures here. So playbook, we'll say playbook still failing. Authentication now failing. Auth now failing. There we go. Commit and sync. And then come over here, sync. Okay.
B. Error message authentication failed. Clearly indicates that Ansible couldn't authenticate with the devices. This could be due to various reasons. Here are some steps to troubleshoot. SSH key authentication. If you're using SSH keys for authentication, ensure the public SSH key of the machine running Ansible is added to the tilde.
I mean, it
SSH
is.
authorized _keys file of the remote _user on the target devices.
Yeah, it is.
Ensure the private key is available and accessible to Ansible. If you set a passphrase on the key, ensure Ansible has a way to use it. Password authentication.
I mean,
If you're using a password for SSH, which isn't recommended for automation due to security considerations, ensure the correct password is being used. You might need to provide the password using Ansible _SSH _pass in your inventory or use /pass when running your playbook. Check SSH configuration. Manually SSH into one of the devices that's failing from the Ansible control node using the remote _user. This helps confirm if the issue is with Ansible or with the SSH setup itself. Bash copy code -posh ds02 Ansible configuration. Confirm that the Ansible _connection variable is set correctly. For network devices, you'll be using network _CLI or another appropriate connection plugin. Ensure that if there's an Ansible CFG file in your working directory, it doesn't override any essential configurations. Verbose output. Run the Ansible playbook with verbose output to get more details about the error. This can sometimes provide more context to understand the problem. Bash copy code Ansible playbook your _playbook. YMLVVV Ansible network OS variables. Ensure you correctly define the Ansible _network _OS variable in your inventory for all devices. This informs Ansible about the type of network device it's connecting to. SSH versions. Some older devices or configurations may use older versions of SSH. Ensure that the device supports the SSH version Ansible is attempting to use. Timeouts. In rare cases, if the device is taking too long to respond, there might be timeout issues. You might need to adjust SSH or Ansible timeout settings accordingly. After going through these steps, if the issue persists, share any new or different error messages or findings. It will help further pinpoint the problem.
Oh, I'm doing it on the wrong machine. There we go. It's very important to do things on the right machine. Okay. Okay, so let's do manual login successful. RSA pub key login successful. Commit and push. All right, and then we'll take that down, sync it, and feed that into the into here.
The
Right.
output you provided indicates that you were successfully able to manually SSH into the device data DS02 using the user GPOS. This is a good sign, as it shows that there isn't a fundamental problem with SSH connectivity or user permissions on the device itself. Given that, the issue most likely resides within the Ansible configuration and the way the playbook and inventory are set up. Let's address the playbook and inventory concerns. Remote user and connection variables. You asked earlier whether the remote_user and Ansible_ connection should be in the playbook or the inventory. While it's perfectly valid to have these in the playbook as you do, for modularity and clarity, you might find it beneficial to move these to the inventory.
Okay.
This allows you to potentially use different usernames or connection methods for different groups of devices if needed in the future. In the inventory, it would look something like Python copy code, data center, data ds01 Ansible_connection equals network_CLI Ansible_user equals gposh data ds02 Ansible_connection equals network_CLI Ansible_user equals gposh. Authentication method. You need to decide whether you're using password-based authentication or SSH key-based authentication. If it's password-based, as mentioned earlier, you can use the Ansible_SSH_pass variable in your inventory or use the passpass flag when running your playbook. Ansible network module. Make sure the Ansible_network_OS is correctly set for all devices. Given that data DS02 is a Juniper device running Junos, the Ansible_network_OS should be set to Junos for this device in the inventory. Copy code data DS02 Ansible_network_OS equals Junos provider variable. In your playbook, you're using provider CLI, but I don't see where the CLI variable is defined. The provider dictionary typically contains information like the username, password, host, etc. Required for Ansible to connect to network devices. Depending on the version of Ansible and the modules you're using, the need for this may vary, but ensure that this variable is properly defined or that you're providing the necessary connection parameters some other way. Given this information, I would recommend trying to move the remote_user and Ansible_connection to the inventory. Clearly deciding on the authentication method and ensuring it's set up properly. Setting the Ansible_network_OS in the inventory. Addressing the provider variable in your playbook or updating the playbook to work without it, depending on your Ansible version and module requirements. After making these adjustments, try running the playbook again and see if the authentication error persists.
Okay, so let's move the remote user and the Ansible connection to the inventory. So let's do that first. So here's the remote user. Okay, so I think we already did that. Yeah. So okay. So let's say my authentication method is SSH key based authentication.
Great, thanks. For clarifying that you're using SSH key-based authentication.
Yeah.
Let's address that. SSH key-based authentication. Ansible uses the same SSH key that the user running the playbook has access to. Ensure that the SSH key of the user running the Ansible commands is the one accepted on the network devices for the user GPOS. If you want to specify a different SSH key for Ansible to use, you can define Ansible_SSH_private_key_file in your inventory. For example, type group copy code, data center, data ds01 Ansible_SSH_private_key_file equals path to private key data ds02 Ansible_SSH_private_key_file equals path to private key. SSH key permissions. Make sure the private key permissions are secure, otherwise SSH won't use them. The private key should only be readable by the owner. You can set the permissions with bash copy code
Right.
600
Let's try it again with
private
dash
key SSH agent.
VVV.
If you use an SSH agent to manage your keys, make sure the agent is running and the correct key is added. You can add a key to the agent with bash copy code -add path to private key verify the key is added to the agent. Bash copy code -add L when using an SSH agent. You don't typically need to specify Ansible_SSH_private_key_file, as Ansible will use the key from the agent. Test SSH connection. From the machine where you're running Ansible, test the SSH connection using the private key explicitly. Bash copy code -i path to private key gposh data ds02. This will help confirm that the key-based authentication works outside of Ansible. Once you've checked or implemented these steps, run your Ansible playbook again. If you continue to face issues, consider adding VVV to the Ansible playbook command to get verbose output. This can provide more detailed information about where the authentication process might be failing.
Okay, so there's some issue where it's freezing up. So let's try to get this running again with VVV. But to do that, we have to prevent it from freezing up. So I guess let me try closing this and then opening it again. There we go. And then we'll run the playbook. We'll do -VVV and then output it to error log. and then feed that into ChatGPT. I've earned some sedentary time, so I'm going to take it. I'm feeling kind of wiped out. Okay, and we can follow along now that the output is redirected. It'll show up here. So let's take a look at the username that's being. Okay, so we've got this Paramiko failure again, where the authenticity can't be established, even though we did go ahead and set that correctly. Let's try to find the username that's being used. All right, there is no username. All right, not sure what's going on there. Now this file might be too big to paste in. I wish I knew the maximum line count that you could paste into GPT. All right, I think I do need to take a quick break. So I'm going to take a break and I'll be right back shortly. All right, welcome back. So, yeah, okay, so let's go. I forget what I was doing. Oh, right. So, yeah, we got more robust, more to feed into the AI. So let's say, let's call it VVV output. Sync it. It should show up automatically here. It's taking a while to show up. I synced it. Maybe it's just the 30 seconds. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, maybe it's already. Oh, here, there we go. Yeah, it takes 30 seconds. I've got it set to 30 seconds. I could change that so it's sooner, but it's not bad. All right.
The errors you're seeing indicate two distinct issues. SSH host key verification. The message Paramiko. The authenticity of host data DSO1 can't be established. Suggests that the SSH host key for the devices data DSO1 and data DSO2 isn't known to the Ansible control node. This is typical behavior for SSH when connecting to a host for the first time. Authentication failed. The devices data ls01, data ls02, data ls03, and data ls04 are returning authentication failed errors, suggesting there might be an issue with the SSH key of the username you're using. Let's address these. 1. SSH host key verification. Before Ansible can connect to a host, it needs to trust the host's SSH key. The usual way to do this is by connecting to the host manually from the Ansible control node and accepting the key. You will be prompted to accept the host's SSH key. After you've done this for both data DSO1 and data DSO2, the host keys will be added to your node host file, and Ansible should be able to connect without the authenticity error. Alternatively, you can disable host key checking, not recommended for production environments due to security implications. Add these lines to your Ansible. CFG. 2. Authentication failed. For the devices that are returning authentication errors, double check that the SSH key is correctly configured on these devices for the user GPOSH. Test SSH key-based authentication manually as before. Bash copy code I path to private key GPOSH at data ls01. If this doesn't work, then there's an issue with either the key on the device or the key you're using.
See, the thing is, like, it's fine. It goes in through the SSH key. We can see there that it goes in there. I think we can do like a -VVV with SSH as well. So let's do a just over here on my other one. Oops, sorry. On my other one here, let's do a SSH dash dash help, and then we've got a dash v, right? Yeah, so we'll do a dash v. I don't see if I do a ssh dash help pipe grep. I don't see a dash v, unfortunately. I guess I see it there. So let's actually try that instead. So we're gonna do SSH-V, and then we'll do a exit, and then pipe that in. So we've got a not sure what's going on there. Let's do that. That's standard error, so we're gonna pipe that in there. There we go. Okay, I'm entitled to some sedentary time if I so choose. Feeling good right now, so I don't think I want it. But yeah, it looks like it's good to go. So let's do that. So we're gonna do SSHV output.
In the Ansible output for host data ds01 and data ds02, there's an error regarding the authenticity of the host not being established. This typically happens when you're connecting to a device for the first time, or if there's a change in the device's SSH key. The command line SSH session, however, shows the host key for data ds01 is already known, debug 1.
Right, exactly.
Host data ds01 is known and matches the ECDSA host key. Closing parenthesis. Authentication issues. The Ansible output for host data ls01, data ls02, data ls03,
Alright,
and data
let's try
ls04
this.
indicates an authentication failure. Potential solutions. Accept new SSH keys. Ansible, by default, doesn't accept new host keys. To overcome this for the initial connection, you can either manually SSH and host once like you did for data ds01 to accept the key, or you can set the Ansible configuration to not check for host key by adding the following to your Ansible configuration or playbook. YAML copy code, defaults, host underscore key underscore checking equals false. However, please note that turning off host key checking can be a security risk. Ensure correct authentication. It seems that the direct SSH connection from the system to the device data ds01 using the command line was successful, while the Ansible connection failed. Here's a breakdown of the problem and potential solutions. SSH key mismatch. In the Ansible output for host data ds01 and data ds02, there's an error regarding the authenticity of the host not being established. This typically
That's so
happens when you're connecting
annoying.
to a device for the first time, or if there's a change in the device's SSH key. The command line SSH session, however, shows the host key for data ds01 is already known, debug 1. Host data ds01 is known and matches the ECDSA host key. Closing parenthesis. Authentication issues. The Ansible output for host data ls01, data ls02, data ls03, and data ls04 indicates an authentication failure. Potential solutions. Accept new SSH keys. Ansible, by default, doesn't accept new host keys. To overcome this for the initial connection, you can either manually SSH and host once like you did for data ds01 to accept the key, or you can set the Ansible configuration to not check for host key by adding the following to your Ansible configuration or playbook. YAML copy, defaults, host underscore key underscore checking equals false. However, please note that turning off host key checking can be a security risk. Ensure correct authentication. Ensure the private key used for authentication, home, GNS3. It seems that the direct SSH connection from the system to the device data ds01 using the command line was successful, while the Ansible connection failed. Here's a breakdown of the problem and potential solutions. SSH key mismatch. In the Ansible output for host data ds01 and data ds02, there's an error regarding the authenticity of the host not being established. This typically happens when you're connecting to a device for the first time, or if there's a change in the device's SSH key. The command line SSH session, however, shows the host key for data ds01 is already known, debug 1. Host data ds01 is known and matches the ECDSA host key. Closing parenthesis. Authentication issues. The Ansible output for host data ls01, data ls02, data ls03, and data ls04 indicates an authentication failure. Potential solutions. Accept new SSH keys. Ansible, by default, doesn't accept new host keys. To overcome this for the initial connection, you can either manually SSH and host once like you did for data DSO1 to accept the key, or you can set the Ansible configuration to not check for host key by adding the following to your Ansible configuration or playbook. YAML copy code, defaults, host underscore key underscore checking equals false. However, please note that turning off host key checking can be a security risk. Ensure correct authentication. Ensure the private key used for authentication, home, GNS3. SSH 8 underscore RSA from the SSH debug log is correctly referenced in your Ansible playbook or configuration. If you this appears to be an Ansible inventory file that segregates different network devices based on their function and location. Each group corresponds to a particular set of devices or a role in the infrastructure, like data center, core, internet, WAN, and FLLWAR01. D. Children attribute for each group indicates that the main group consists of other subgroups. This is a nice way to keep inventory organized, especially when there are multiple types of devices within a logical grouping. D. Var sections specify variables that apply to the devices within each group. For instance, you're specifying the Ansible underscore network underscore OS, which determines which network module Ansible will use to interact with the devices. You also have the remote underscore user variable, which tells Ansible which username to use for connecting to the devices. From the provided inventory, here are a few points and potential solutions based on the problem you presented. SSH keys. Ensure that the SSH private key for user gposh is properly set up and the public key is installed on all the devices. If you need to specify an SSH key to use for Ansible, you can add Ansible underscore SSH underscore private underscore key underscore file equals path to private underscore key under the respective. Var section. Host key checking. You've set host underscore key underscore checking to false, which means Ansible won't verify the SSH host key of devices it's connecting to. This is fine for troubleshooting or initial setups, but it's a security risk for production use. Once you've successfully made an initial connection to all devices, consider setting it to true or removing this setting to revert to default behavior. Network OS modules. Ensure that the network operating system modules, IOS, Junos, EOS, etc. are compatible with the actual OS on the devices. Mismatches can cause connectivity issues or command failures. Upgrades. As previously mentioned, consider updating Ansible and Python to more recent versions for better compatibility and bug fixes. Testing. When making changes or troubleshooting, test with one device or a subset first before rolling out changes to the entire inventory. Ansible configuration. This inventory file seems to be in order. However, if there's an Ansible CFG file, ensure that the inventory is correctly referenced with the inventory parameter. Lastly, remember that Ansible provides detailed error messages with increased verbosity. Running your Ansible playbooks with DVV might give more insights into the specific issue you're encountering.
Okay, and these are all the same for all of them. So let's add these to the defaults, and then try to get rid of the. We'll keep that there for now, but we'll add these to the defaults, and then we can only have one instance of them, hopefully. I'm hoping that's how it works. I have no idea. Okay, so that looks hopefully good to me. So, oops, do not want to discard. Thank you for asking. We'll say explicitly pointing to public key. Alright, now let's try it now that it's explicitly pointing to the public key. And then now that we've got these synced, let's run the playbook. Okay, so same issue. So let's put that in the error log, and then can't, and we'll say can't no inventory parsed, failed to parse. We'll put that in the so here's the error log. So we'll stage it and we'll say no hosts matched. Command it, sync it, pull it down. All right, feed that to here.
If you see the message skipping, No hosts matched for each of the groups in your Ansible play. It means Ansible did not find any hosts in the specified group from your inventory. Here are some common reasons and solutions. Inventory file not loaded. Ensure that you are referencing the correct inventory file when running your playbook. Bash copy code Ansible playbook I path to inventory file your underscore playbook. YML misspelled host groups. Check the playbook to ensure that you are referencing the host groups using the exact same names as in the inventory file. Dynamic inventory issues. If you're using a dynamic inventory script, make sure it's functioning correctly and returning the expected output. Ansible configuration. If you have an Ansible CFG configuration file, ensure the inventory directive and it points to your intended inventory file or directory. Host patterns. If you're using host patterns in your playbook, ensure they correctly match the groups or hosts in your inventory. MP groups. Ensure your provided Ansible inventory seems to be correctly structured, and you've defined host groups along with children groups and associated variables. The modifications include the global defaults with the private key file and the omission of host key checking. Here's a quick analysis of some important points. Default section. Remote underscore user specifies the remote user for the SSH connection. Ansible underscore connection indicates that Ansible should use network underscore CLI as the connection plugin. Ansible underscore SSH underscore private underscore key underscore file. B. Provided Ansible playbook looks like a structured set of tasks meant to gather device facts for different device types in various network sections E, G, data center, core, etc. And save those facts to specific locations on the Ansible controller, probably for documentation or further analysis. Here's a breakdown of its key components. Hosts. Specifies the target host group. It will pull the relevant hosts from the inventory you provided previously. Tests. These are the actions that Ansible will execute on the target hosts. IOS underscore facts, EOS underscore facts, Junos underscore facts. These are modules that gather facts from devices running Cisco IOS, Arista EOS, and Juniper Junos, respectively.
Alright, so I have a question for it. What if I delete the provider key? Will that fix my issues? So what if I delete the provider key? Do you think that will... Yeah, so like the CLI variable, like, should I delete that as the value for the provider key? Do you think that will help solve my issues? I think it will. Let me try it. I'll escape to get rid of that, and let me try that. So we're gonna get rid of. So we do need it to say iOS facts though. So let me ask it again. So what if I just delete that CLI value under the provider key, or just delete that provider key entirely, but then the facts key won't have any value? So like, will this solve my issue? Like, what if I do that?
If
right,
you remove the provider.
Yeah, I want it to look from the
then Ansible will look for
file.
connection and authentication details elsewhere.
Yeah, I want it to look in the inventory file. So like, how can I change my playbook so that I know that it's looking in the inventory file? Can you please make the changes in the playbook I pasted in earlier and show me the changes?
Certainly. If you want Ansible to look in the inventory file for connection details, you can simplify your playbook by removing the provider specifications and rely on the global defaults and group-specific variables you've set in the
I
inventory.
can just have it be blank.
Here's a version of your playbook that has been modified accordingly.
All right, let me try that. All right, let me try that. So, and then it'll be trying to make it auth via the hosts file.
Key changes. I've removed the provider. Cleat
Oh.
lines.
Okay, it's done. Okay, so give me the... I should change that to every 15 seconds. That would make it better. 30 seconds is a very long time. So 15 seconds would be better. Okay, so now let's run the playbook again and hopefully it will work. Same problem, man. Plus a local host is not unable to parse inventory source. Why is it not able to? Oh, it says it here what's going on. So it's saying that there's a problem on line 5. Oh, I have a typo. It shouldn't be all. It shouldn't be on 2 lines. It shouldn't have spaces like that. Yeah, that was it. I might need to add that line back in though because it was having the issues. But yeah, that was literally the only problem. Okay, yeah, we're still having the... Oh, you know what? We're getting the banners now though. See how we got the banners? So we're making it. But yeah, we're getting those permission denieds now. So unfortunately, I'm going to add that back in. I know it's not secure, but I mean, if it doesn't even work, like, that's probably not secure either. And I think I'm going to take my sedentary time. So get 25 minutes on the clock to be sedentary. Alright, that was me moving the treadmill out of the way so I could sit in my saddle chair. Oh, this is interesting. So we've still got to the permission denied. Man, it's so wonky. Like, that is so weird. Why is it like so bad? Like it's so unclear like what is happening and stuff. That is really wonky. I don't understand like why it's so obfuscated is what it is. Like I can't tell what it's doing. What are we at for this video? We're at an hour, which is usually a pretty good time. Okay, so we've got the error log now. So banners, good. Seeing banners, but still key issues. Okay. I want to change that. Let's change the get fetched to 15 seconds. Okay. We'll change it on both of them. Oh, okay, so yep, now we got this thing changes a little bit faster. Let's take a look at the error log and paste that in.
From the
Right. So why is it unable to do that?
output provided, the main issue you are facing is that Ansible is unable to establish an SSH connection to
Oh, it's still using the
the
wrong
reason they're mostly
user.
permission denied, public keyboard interactive, password. This indicates that the user GNS3, from the logs, does not have proper SSH access to those devices. Here's how you can troubleshoot and fix these issues. SSH keys. Ensure that the SSH key for the GNS3 user on the machine where you're running Ansible is added to the authorized underscore keys. File of all target hosts in the home, GNS3. SSH directory.
Why won't it use the right? I mean, I have. If we look at my files, my INI file, it has the user specified. Yeah, remote user. Oh, actually, this looks different. Let's try changing it to Ansible user ID instead of remote user. Yeah, maybe that'll fix it. All right, so maybe this will work. So it's going to be Ansible underscore SSH underscore user. Yep, instead of remote user. All right, so maybe that's going to be the difference. There we go. 15 seconds is a much better time. Same deal, and it's still using the wrong username. Why is it still using the wrong username? I'm so confused. Why is it just ignoring my configuration? Yeah, why is it
If
not
Ansible
doing
is not
it?
using the desired user for SSH connection, it could be due to a few reasons. Playbook role override. The user might be overridden at the playbook or role level. Ensure you don't have a remote underscore user specification in your playbook or role says overriding the user. Inventory file. Check your hosts. Any is referenced in your output for any user specification. The inventory file can set usernames for hosts which might be overriding your default. Ansible config, Ansible. CFG, the default configuration file for Ansible might have the remote underscore user set. Ensure that, etc., Ansible, Ansible. CFG or any other Ansible configuration in use doesn't set the remote underscore user to a different value. SSH configuration. If you have an SSH configuration file, tilde. SSH, configure, etc., SSH underscore config, it could have a host-specific user configuration which might be overriding the Ansible user. Ansible command line. Ensure you're not overriding the user on the command line with the U option. Given the information you provided, let's try a direct approach. In your playbook, campus underscore facts. YML, right at the top, before any roles or tasks, specify the remote underscore user directive. By doing so, you're explicitly instructing Ansible to use the gposh user for all tasks in that playbook. Also, try running the Ansible playbook command with the U flag. This should explicitly set the remote user for that particular execution. If you're still facing issues, you'll need to ensure there aren't any configurations or settings in the aforementioned locations that are conflicting or overriding your desired user.
Okay, so let's try this. Okay, we're gonna do it right here. So we're gonna do name my playbook, uh, hosts all remote user like that, and then okay. All right, and then we'll give this to it.
Your playbook. Looks well structured. Each section corresponds to a group of devices, data center, core, internet, WAN, 401, and tasks to be executed against those devices. Here are some observations regarding your playbook and the remote_user issue. Multiple plays in one playbook. Your playbook consists of multiple plays, and only the first play has the remote_user.
Oh, really?
GPOS specification. If you intend for all plays to use the user GPOS, you should specify the remote_user directive in each play. For example, YAML copycode hosts, data center remote_user, GPOS tasks. Variables and task structure. Your playbook has a repetition of tasks for different groups of devices. Although this is not directly related to your remote_user issue, for the sake of optimization, consider using Ansible roles or loops to avoid repetition. For instance, if the tasks are the same for each host group and only the path differs, you can utilize variables and loops to reduce the repetition. Testing connectivity. If you're still facing issues with the remote_user, try testing connectivity using the Ansible command with the M, module, and F arguments flags. This will help you determine if the issue is with your playbook or elsewhere. Bash copycode Ansible data center mping ugposh. This command will try to connect to hosts in the data center group using the gposh user and execute the ping module. Verbose mode. Running Ansible playbook with verbose mode can give more insight into what's happening. Use the VVV option. Bash copycode Ansible playbook campus_facts. YML ugposh VVV. Check the output to see more details about the SSH connection process. This might provide hints if there are any issues with the remote_user. To address your immediate concern, specify the remote_user directive in each play as shown in the example above. After making this change, try executing the playbook again and see if it correctly uses the gposh user.
I don't know why it keeps using the wrong user. I mean, if you were just using the pure code and you weren't using Ansible, you would know right away why it was using the wrong user, because there'd be one location. Like, it would only do what you explicitly coded it to do. It wouldn't do what the people at Ansible coded it to do. So, like, see what I mean? Where, like, I'm so frustrated by this. It's like, I just want it to do what I want it to do. So, like, it's just doing other things. It's like using, a different, like, on its own, it's using a different host name for some reason. Or it's using a different SSH user for some reason. I think it's still doing it. Yeah. Yeah, it keeps using the wrong. It keeps doing it completely on as intended. I'm almost tempted to just ditch Ansible and just start using Paramiko, because it'll show you, like, just how better it is. Okay, but now we actually are going into, like, the floor one and all that. So we have a transfer mechanism that's failing. So, like, I think we're getting further now. I think we actually are. Yeah. So we are getting quite a bit further. Let's feed this into the air file. Man, it just does not want to play along, no matter what I do. Strain is not registering my strain. Okay, so I think I'm going to need to just run it again right away because I need this to be fed into the AI. But we can see that it is actually using the correct host now for some of them at least. I'm not sure if it's using the correct host for all of them, but this is progress. The reason it's using the correct host is because of what we did, what we added to the playbook. We added the remote user to the playbook, so we have like this extra configuration here. I don't know if that's necessary or not. And this is strange too because it's unable to resolve. Oh, here, yeah, okay, it shouldn't be able to. But the thing is, I thought I had. Oh, actually, I don't have it commented out in the playbook, I think. Oh, wait, I do. Why is it? Oh, I don't have it like commented out in the yeah, in this one. Okay, so this is actually a lot better. Yeah, this is actually pretty good. We're just having mechanisms fail now, but it's actually reaching out to the devices and attempting to work on the devices. There we go. So we can see now we've got the whole network. We've got the data center. We've got the floor one. We've got the internet section of the network. We've got the core and the WAN. Now we've also got some strange things here. So this to me is good evidence that can be deleted because it's being treated as a device that can be logged into, and that's not what we want from that. So I'm going to delete that because obviously this is not working as intended. All right, and then I'm going to run this again and feed the output to that file so we can send it to ChatGPT. All right, and I'll take a quick break. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. So let's take a look at the progress here. So, okay, we've got some standard error here. That won't get captured into the error log, unfortunately. Let's take a look at what's making it into that error log. So okay, I think this might be okay. So yeah, let's just wait for it to finish out on the whole network and then paste in this file to the to ChatGPT. So I'll take another break. I'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Oops, sorry. Mic check 1 2. All right, that looks better. So welcome back. I'm gonna close out this here. So I'm gonna try to close this out pretty fast. Videos at an hour and a half. We did get pretty far. So let's take a look at the so what I did is I ran this file. So now we just need to feed it to the AI. So let's go ahead and update and do that. So we're gonna say they're still unreachable. So we'll call it unreachable. Stage all the changes. Stage all the changes. There we go. And then we'll say unreachable. Commit and sync those up. All right. And then what we need to do is go on to to here. Let's sync automatically populate since we have the git fetch automatically going. Now we have the error log. So we got to get these to the OK status. So that's what I'm working on right now.
From the playbook output, it's evident that Ansible faced multiple issues connecting to and executing commands on the network devices. Let's categorize and address these issues. Authentication or permission failure. The issue seems related to the inability of Ansible to create a temporary directory on the target host.
Yeah, I think I
This can be due to incorrect permissions or due to the
this.
nature of the devices. Many network devices do not support standard Unix Linux commands.
Yeah.
You might want to
It
set
thinks
Ansible
it's a
_shell
Linux
_type
device.
network _clee for network devices or use network-specific modules instead of generic modules that assume a Unix-like environment.
I do want that.
SSH error. This indicates that Ansible was unable to SSH into the target device. Reasons could be incorrect SSH keys or passwords. Device is down or unreachable. SSH is not configured or running on the target device. Make sure your inventory contains the correct SSH credentials, the devices are up, and SSH is correctly configured on them. Failed to connect. Cannot resolve hostname. This suggests a DNS resolution problem. The device's hostname cannot be resolved to an IP address. Ensure that the hostname is correct. Ensure that DNS is correctly configured or use IP addresses instead of hostnames. Error. Unknown command. Bint shish. This error is typical when Ansible attempts to run a shell command on a network device that doesn't have a typical Unix Linux shell. Ensure you're using the appropriate Ansible modules for networking devices, like IS_command for Cisco IS devices, rather than modules that attempt to run shell commands. Recommendations. Network-specific modules. Instead of using modules that are designed for Linux Unix hosts, use modules tailored for network devices. For example, if you're trying to collect information from Cisco devices, use the IS_facts module. Inventory settings. Ensure that your inventory file, host file for Ansible, is set up correctly with the necessary variables for network modules. This may include Ansible_connection set network_CLI, Ansible_network_OS specifying the device OS type, like iOS, and any required authentication variables. Ping test. Before executing your playbook, you can test the reachability of your devices using the Ansible ping module for Unix, Linux hosts, with the network-specific ping modules like IS_ping for Cisco IS devices. This helps you identify if there's a basic connectivity issue. Use Ansible Network Guide. Ansible documentation provides a comprehensive guide on using Ansible for network automation. It's worth taking a look to ensure you're using best practices and correct configurations. Remember, network devices are not the same as typical compute hosts, and the way Ansible interacts with them is quite different. Ensure that your playbooks, inventory, and overall approach are aligned with network automation best practices.
Alright, so hopefully this looks better. Man, that's so annoying. So, let's see here. So it's in the playbook. So here's the playbook. It's on line 2. I've got an error. I think these need to be... Huh, that's kind of interesting. So I guess let me feed this to the AI.
Given. Playbook seems to be for network device fact collection using Ansible. It attempts to gather facts from devices running iOS, Junos, and EOS based on the groups they belong to, like data center, core, internet, WAN, FLOR01, etc. Closing parenthesis. Once the facts are gathered, they are saved to JSON files in specific directories. Here are a few observations and potential recommendations. Duplicate register variable. You've used the same variable device_facts_output to register the output for multiple tasks across different device types. This may lead to overriding the variable contents. If tasks run simultaneously on devices from different groups, the variable might hold unexpected values. However, given that you are saving to a file immediately after fetching the facts, this might not be a problem in this context. Disabled FortiGate fact collection. The section for gathering facts from FortiGate devices is commented out. Ensure you have the necessary Ansible module to gather FortiGate device facts and uncomment that part if you want to include FortiGate.
Okay, so let's have it rewrite the playbook. Yeah, so I don't know. It's doing it in an interesting way. It doesn't have yeah, so it doesn't have things. So this looks good. It might not write the whole thing, but you know what? That's okay if it doesn't. I'm okay with that. Okay, so yeah, this looks better. Let's do this one. Rewritten, and we'll call it rewritten playbook. sync it. Okay, now let's try it with the rewritten playbook. Okay, so we've got a error here. So let's do a yep. Okay. Let's say invalid attribute. Okay. Some changes. There we go. Let's see what the AI has to say about this.
I apologize for the oversight. The Ansible _shell_ type attribute should not be set directly in the play.
Okay.
Instead, it should be set in either the host variables or group variables. This way, you can set the correct Ansible _shell_ type for each group or host. Here's how to just remove Ansible _shell_ type from the playbook. Define Ansible _shell_ type in your inventory or group host bars. For instance, if you have an inventory file, you can structure it like this. Alternatively, if you're using a YAML style inventory, or if you're using group or host bars. For instance, for iOS group _vars IS. YMLAND similar files for other groups. By saying it this way, Ansible will automatically use the appropriate Ansible _shell_ type for each group host. Adjust the refactored playbook I provided by simply removing the Ansible _shell_ type line and ensure you have set the variable in your inventory or in the appropriate group host bars file.
Okay, so I will work on
Based on your inventory structure, you seem to have already categorized devices by their type: iOS, Junos, EOS, etc. Using child groups. I'll now add the Ansible _shell_ type equals network _clee variable to all of your device type specific groups since you appear to be working with network devices across the board.
Okay.
Here's the rewritten inventory.
Rewritten inventory. Wait, I'm confused. Oh. Yeah. Okay, it's still working. Oh, okay. Yeah, there we go. That's what I need. I mean, it should go in like the group vars file, but
I've added
whatever.
Ansible _shell_ type equals network _clee to the vars sections of each of the groups where you've specified Ansible _network _OS. This means that any host within these groups will automatically have the network _clee shell type assigned. This should work seamlessly with the playbook tasks.
So let me see here. So hopefully it works now. So we'll say network CLI. Yeah, we'll just say that. Man, it keeps doing the same thing. All right, so let's pipe it to the file. Invalid attribute again. I mean, it's just there's an invalid attribute, so just get rid of this, right? Oh. Oh, you know what? I think I know what's going on. So I think I might need to do I need to do that? No. maybe do this. All right, so let's pipe it to the error log, and then we'll put that in there. Okay, it says that this is invalid playbook syntax. Please confirm and correct.
Your error. Message indicates an issue with the playbook syntax. On inspection of your provided playbook snippet, I noticed some alignment issues and missing colons.
Oh, really?
Here's a corrected version of the playbook.
I'm
A few
missing
things to
some
note.
colons.
The module name IS_facts and its parameters must be properly aligned. For IS_facts, I added gather_subset, all as an example. You might need to adjust this according to your needs. The gather_subset parameter specifies which facts to gather. The default is config, but all collects everything. Ensure that group_names is a list that contains the names of all groups the current host is a member of. This is a built-in variable in Ansible, so your conditional should work if the host is part of the correct groups in your inventory. This revised playbook should be syntactically correct. If you encounter further issues, it would be helpful to provide additional context for the full playbook for a more detailed review.
Okay. So let's say here's the full playbook, please.
Your playbook attempts to use rescue and always blocks, which are valid inside an Ansible block. These blocks allow you to add exception handling to your playbook, but they need to be nested correctly. Let's correct the playbook. Organize tasks under a block to make use of rescue and always. Properly align the parameters under each module to fix syntax issues. Here's the revised playbook.
All right. Okay, so they're doing the whole playbook. I'm going to take a break for my protein timer, and then I'll do some sedentary time as well. All right, so I'll be back soon.
This playbook now collects facts for the specified devices based on their group names. Handles errors using the rescue block. Executes the tasks in the always block regardless of whether the tasks in the block succeeded or failed.
All right, I'm back. So let's keep going. Start the protein timer now, and then I'm good on the treadmill. So after 5 minutes, if I want some sedentary time, I can have it. I do need to stop after 5 minutes, though. I've got something on my calendar. So, okay, we've got the new playbook. So let's do that. And let's take a look at the differences. So, yeah, we've got the gather subset all. Now, we don't have any changes to this name part. So I'm not sure what's going on there. But let's try it. I have a feeling we'll have the same issues, though. So gather subset all added. Okay, so I'll commit that, and I'll sync the changes, and then I will put the changes back down. Okay, so there we go, syncing the changes back down. And then there we go. Okay, so now, hey, look at that. You know what? It went a lot faster this time. which is kind of a problem. Yeah, so now we've got an invalid shell specification. But the good news is we did actually get further in the actual playbook. So let's pipe this into the error log, which is good because it'll go fast this time. And we're gonna say yep, so let's verify that it all got in there. There we go. And then we're going to do invalid shell. Okay, commit that and push it up. Not sure what happened there. I think I forgot to stage it. So let's commit it. All right, and then let's sync the changes. Looks like I've got 2 changes syncing. I'm not sure why I've got 2 of them. Hopefully that's not a problem. Okay, and then we'll sync the 2 changes. All right, and then we'll feed the output into ChatGPT.
From the output you provided, there are 2 primary issues. Most of the devices are failing with an error related to the network_CLI shell type.
Yeah.
There are a couple of devices, in Firewall 01 and in Firewall 02, that are unreachable due to hostname resolution issues. Let's tackle these issues. 1. Network_CLI issue. The error invalid shell type specified, network_CLI, or the plugin for that shell type is missing typically occurs because Ansible is trying to use the network_CLI connection method but is either misconfigured or missing the necessary plugins.
Okay.
Solution. 1. From the output you provided, there are 2 primary issues. Most of the devices are failing with an error related to the network_CLI shell type. There are a couple of devices, in Firewall 01 and in Firewall 02, that are unreachable due to hostname resolution issues. Let's tackle these issues. 1. Network_CLI issue. The error invalid shell type specified, network_CLI, or the plugin for that shell type is missing typically occurs because Ansible is trying to use the network_CLI connection method but is either misconfigured or missing the necessary plugins. Solution. Ensure you have Ansible NetMiko Python library installed. This can be done using pip. Bash copy code pip install netmiko in your Ansible inventory. Specify the Ansible_connection variable as network_CLI for the network devices. For example, YAML copy code, IAS, TakeCore01 Ansible_connection equals network_CLI. Also, you might need to specify the device type using Ansible_network_OS in your inventory. For example, YAML copy code, IAS, TakeCore01 Ansible_connection equals network_CLI Ansible_network_OS equals IAS. Ensure the Ansible CFG has the following are added to your playbook at the top level if you're not using a centralized config file. In copy code, defaults, host_key_checking equals false 2. Hostname resolution issue. The devices in Firewall 01 and in Firewall 02 are failing to connect due to the error could not resolve hostname. This is a DNS issue or a misconfigured inventory issue. Solution. 1. From the output you provided, there are 2 primary issues. Most of the devices are failing with an error related to the network_CLI shell type. There are a couple of devices, in Firewall 01.
So here's a question. So before I run an Ansible playbook, do I need to enable a Python virtual environment?
Using a Python virtual environment for running Ansible or any other Python tool or application isn't strictly necessary, but it's recommended best practice. Here's why. Advantages of using a Python virtual environment. Isolation. It provides an isolated environment for Python applications.
All right, so the clock is ticking. I've got my sedentary timer coming on, about to go off. And then I've got something coming up in 5 minutes. So the time to upload this video and all that, it'll be time for my thing. So there's my sedentary timer. I'm going to take 25 minutes of sedentary time. Stop this. And yep, unfortunately, that's all the time I have for this video. So thanks for watching and stay tuned for the next one.